Ladies and gents, Suji Reacts, and this is Nuclear Tests That Went Horribly Wrong by the channel Underworld. Here are two nuclear atomic tests that went horribly wrong. Yeah, the nuclear tests obviously started during the World War II to end the war they did with the atomic bombs being dropped on Japan, and then they just scaled it up, start to test more and more yield of bombs, and then they started to test out thermonuclear bombs, right? Hydrogen bombs, basically, Russia and USA. So yeah, I guess some of them went really wrong. So we'll see what was the effect of it. Probably radiation, right? Because at the start they didn't know what the radiation effect is going to be. So you can find pretty early weapons tests in Nevada, which you can see smoke clouds and things like that from Las Vegas, right? I mean, that's just fucked up. Right now, anybody testing that close to Las Vegas, people would panic like, holy shit, run out of the entire city. Obviously, at the early times, people didn't know the effects of that. So, yeah, let's watch this one.
Between 1945 and 1992, the United States performed over 1,000 nuclear tests. Out of
wait a second, the volume's too low. Oh, there you go, I emptied up.
216 were space, underwater, or atmospheric tests. While most of the testing took place at a test site in Nevada, the United States military tested the capabilities of these new weapons in other places as well, particularly within the Pacific Ocean. With such immense power in their hands, you would assume the scientists would take extra precautions to ensure innocent bystanders were not negatively impacted from the nuclear warheads detonating nearby. However, mistakes happen in every line of work, and there have been several cases where nuclear testing went horribly off the rails. While there have only been a few tests gone awry, one error is one too many when you're dealing with nuclear weapons. It is estimated that because of nuclear weapons testing in the United States, over 300,000 Americans have lost their lives.
What?
Today on Underworld, we're going to be going over two nuclear tests that went horribly wrong.
Because of the nuclear test, 300,000 Americans died. Holy shit, this is probably what I said like earlier times when they were testing on American land near cities. Because they didn't know what this could be. They just thought it's probably radiation is going to be there, but not as much as that people's going to get affected. Probably they undercalculated. So yeah. By the way, this has nothing to do with the video, but I saw that at the early times the missiles launching from place to place, ICBMs reach such a high speed and goes into the space and they come back down. They have such a high speed. They are like those high speed collisions in the how in astrophysics people are high speed collision. So when something goes more faster and it has more kinetic energy than the molecules that bind that object. If something goes that fast, that's called high speed collision. So when it hits something, all that kinetic energy basically goes inside the object, and it is more energy than the molecular bonds that hold that object, so it explodes suddenly. That's how asteroid, whenever it hits anything, creates a round craters, right? Doesn't matter which angle it hits from. So basically that creates so much explosion that you don't need bombs in ICBMs. ICBMs can be empty and just hit a place and that would explode. I know, I just said I was here. Castle Bravo. Oh yeah,
on March 1st,
this went horribly wrong. Also, I remember real life lore videos. This went horribly wrong in a sense that it was way too powerful than they expected, and the radiation spread around the other islands, I guess.
1954. A group of military officers, scientists, Marshall Island natives, and fishermen gathered on a small island to witness the testing of a new nuclear weapon. The testing was codenamed Castle Bravo, and its impact almost led to the deaths of them all. The experiment was designed to test the first thermonuclear explosion that was based on feasible technology.
It affected the people who created it. I thought it only affected the local population of the islands around it. Damn, so even the people who did this, they were affected.
The goal was that this research would result in a deliverable H-bomb. The team designed a prototype wet fuel bomb that was based on the Ivy Mike weapon designed just a couple of years earlier. The bomb in question weighed 30 tons, despite only measuring 5 feet wide and 24 feet long. However, this bomb simply wasn't practical, which is why, for Castle Bravo, they used dry fuel.
Wait a minute, I need to visualize a 5 feet and 25 feet. Holy shit, that weighed 30 tons?
Consisting of lithium deuteride, which is solid and more lightweight. Scientists estimated that Castle Bravo would yield an explosion of roughly 5 megatons. With this in mind, they based where the safety zone would be, where people could watch the explosion and remain a safe distance away. Castle Bravo was set to go off at 6:45 local time, and from the second it detonated, onlookers knew something had gone terribly wrong. The nuclear explosion produced an overwhelming flash, even brighter than what scientists expected from nuclear blasts.
Yeah, every time I see this footage, I'm like, this camera sensors, doesn't matter which camera it is, cannot really capture the true reality and brightness of the thing. So if you were standing there looking through from your eyes this explosion, that would be like the fucking end of the world. I can't even imagine that. That's just fucked up.
The blast was so bright that men were able to see their bones appear as shadows through their own flesh. Blinding light made its way through every crack and pinhole within the
Okay, how does that happen? You can see your bones? I mean, this would have probably... I mean, your eyes cannot pick up X-rays, right? I mean, I would have thought that, okay, this thing probably creates lots of X-ray radiation, but you can't detect that. I don't know. I feel like the light was so bright and they probably put their hands on their eyes, right? Because it was so fucking bright, otherwise you get blinded. There's a reason why you can't look at the sun. And this is like a small sun that you created, a hydrogen bomb. That is what the sun is, nuclear fusion, and this is nuclear fusion. So probably the light was so intense that they probably put their hands on their eyes. And everything else glowed, but they could see lines. Maybe that's how they see the bones. I don't know. Damn, that's just fucked up.
secured facilities. The thermal radiation from the blast was far more intense than they were anticipating. Sailors on Navy ships over 30 miles away were reported as saying that it felt like a blowtorch was being directed right at their bodies. The subsequent shockwave destroyed buildings.
What? 30 miles away was that hot? 30 miles, so that's like 50 kilometers, right? I live in India, kilometers. So I'm trying to imagine what is 50 kilometers away. If something blow up all the way there, and I'm sitting here, I would feel that much heat. Holy shit, this is ridiculously powerful.
Far outside the calculated damage zone. The fireball forming from the explosion measured at roughly 4 miles in diameter and rose over 130,000 feet above sea level. Oh, and did I mention that it was hotter than the surface of the sun? Men who fought valiantly
Lots of things are hotter than surface of the sun. Lightning bolt is hotter than the surface of the sun.
in World War II fell to their knees and began to pray. Remember when we said that scientists expected the blast to only be 5 megatons? Well, when all was said and done, that blast was closer to 15 megatons.
Ooh, 3
The
times.
reason for the miscalculation was due to a tritium bonus that happened in the middle of the thermonuclear reaction. Cascading neutrons in the bomb turned the lithium-7 isotope into a mix of tritium and helium. And if you know
All right.
nothing of thermonuclear dynamics, then you should know that tritium creates extreme energetic fusion. This blast was 1,000 times greater than...
Yeah, so basically, without going into much detail, tritium is one of those booster things, right? That basically triggers fusion at the lower temperature than required. So basically, thermonuclear fusion bombs are really hard to do. Why? Because they require massive heat to undergo fusion. Fission bombs are easier compared to that. That is why North Korea, when they said we have thermonuclear fusion bomb, everybody like, how did they get the energy? Because this is damn complex thing. You need a fission bomb at the top, so when it triggers, it creates a lots of heat, and that heat basically triggers a big fusion bomb that is below it, and that's how the thermonuclear fusion bomb works, right? So basically, what tritium does is that you require a lower temperature than you normally would for the fusion to start. So effectiveness of the bomb goes up. So you'd have much higher yield than you thought. Because even the fission bomb, when it goes off and whatever heat it can provide, that is still not enough for fusion to go properly, properly effectively use everything. That's why effectiveness of the bombs are not that high, but tritium can raise its effectiveness, so the yield is even greater. So that's why it was 3 times as big, because tritium made its yield even more higher.
The atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. And just when everyone in the vicinity thought they were safe, there was the matter of the nuclear fallout. Meteorologists
Damn.
expected the fallout to blow away from all inhabited areas. Instead, The opposite occurred, with a radioactive cloud blowing the fallout toward the population. It rained down on nearby ships as well as United States service members stationed on Rongerik Island. The fallout also made its way to a Japanese fishing vessel where one man died from radiation exposure, resulting in an international disaster between the US and Japan. More so, Marshall Island natives had to leave the only home they had ever known because the radiation was leading to increased cases of thyroid cancer as well as birth defects. They returned briefly, but had to evacuate again due to fears of lingering radiation, and they never went back. Fallout continued in the form of extensive legislation to limit further testing of nuclear weapons. In 1963, the US passed the Limited Test Ban Treaty that outlawed any further atmospheric
Russians detonated Tsar Bomba, right? The most powerful bomb ever detonated. And effects of that, people felt it in Finland and even in the Europe all the way there, right? So that's how that bomb was powerful. Then Americans did the Castle Bravo. That went horribly wrong. It was 3 times as more powerful than they thought, 3 times more yield, 15 megatons of yield. So that probably killed a lot of people and affected the locals. After this happened, everybody, whoa, what the fuck? All right, even that is even more powerful than we might ever expected. That is way too much for us. So let's just create a treaty and limit the test now. Because even Americans and the Russian Soviets at the time was like, this is way bigger even for us.
Testing of nuclear weapons. In 1990, Congress passed the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, which stated that the Justice Department would offer a one-time payment of $75,000 to any and all atomic veterans for nuclear testing-related illnesses. Surprisingly, records show that only about 3% of such atomic veterans have ever filed for a claim.
Yeah. I mean, damn, that also real life lore video that America's creating its own, what was that? Chernobyl. So that video I reacted to that. They basically took all the radioactive waste from Washington State, Nevada, and everywhere where they tested things. And they piled it up in somewhere Pacific in an island and put a lid on top of it. Now water is rising and about to go inside this chamber they created and might pollute the ocean there and create an issue for all the local life like Samoa and I don't know what islands are near. So yeah, there are lots of issue around this during the nuclear bomb testing and creating of the bombs. There are lots of issues that were created that is still a ticking time bomb that we might one day realize the whole issue, even that went horribly wrong.
Due to atmospheric testing being banned, the military and scientists had to go underground if they wanted to test the capabilities of nuclear weapons. One such test, known as the Bainbury test, was scheduled to occur at 7:30 a.m. on December 18, 1970. The test was located at a Nevada test site. The bomb was lowered more than 900 feet into a hole a little over 7 feet in diameter. It only took about 3 minutes after the test began for people to realize that something had gone horrifically wrong. Nearly 300 feet away from the hole where the bomb was planted, a fissure opened up in the ground. This fissure was just large enough to where a cloud of radioactive vapor and dust began pouring into the sky. Government workers immediately had to evacuate from the test site. But when you're dealing with a nuclear bomb, you don't exactly have a lot of time. Hundreds of them ended up being exposed to the radiation. For many of the workers, their exposure remained within the established safety limits. However, 2 men who had suffered from the highest levels of exposure out of anyone later contracted leukemia and passed away. Their widows fought for compensation for years. While courts ultimately found the government to be negligent in this case, it found that they were not liable and no money was awarded. The government also ended up doing a test to determine why this went wrong.
Look, I don't know, man. Lots of shit. The government pays lots of people, right? If somebody falls down in some of the shop, they basically sues the shop and get the compensation for that. I think somebody who's involved in some dangerous experiment like that, when it goes wrong and wronger than they knew it, at that point the family deserves somewhat compensation because the guy died there, right? I mean, it's not like he knew that something could go wrong like this and he still basically went for the job. Obviously, this is a dangerous job, but something went horribly wrong that they didn't expect it, right? So around this time, it's not far-fetched to think that families would want compensation. Because like I said, so somebody drops in some kind of a chain restaurant or something and they sue the restaurant and they have to pay. And government saying, we are not liable. That's kind of, yeah.
Halted all underground testing for 6 months, and eventually, it was discovered that the geology of the site, along with its high water content, ultimately magnified the impact of the bomb. New rules were put into place regarding the investigation of geology of potential test sites before moving forward. Additionally, new rules had to be put into place to limit workers' potential exposure to radiation in the future. In the above two examples, there were terrifying pictures of what these blasts looked like. However, ultimately, the blast isn't what ended up killing anyone.
Yeah.
People remained at safe distances from the detonations, and while things went wrong, no one was near the blast site. The real killer came in the form of radioactive fallout. The last nuclear testing occurred in the 1990s, and for good reason. New research has revealed that there has always been a hidden cost of developing nuclear weapons, and it's in the form of numerous American deaths. Between 1951 and 1973, it's estimated that anywhere between 340,000 and 690,000 Americans died as a result of nuclear fallout in their own country. Between 1951 and 1963, the US tested nuclear weapons above ground, inadvertently exposing thousands of workers to fallout.
There's a miniature nuke launcher there that basically inspired the fallouts, the nuke launcher. The Fat Man, sorry, I even forgot the name.
High doses, this fallout is deadly to humans, and even in low doses, it can still lead to cancer. The emissions did not remain localized at the test site. Instead, wind blew the fallout into local communities. Over time, it was revealed that towns near nuclear testing sites had significantly higher rates of cancer when compared to other cities. Much causes could be as high as 690,000? It seems as though the United States killed more of its own people to develop these weapons. The government has taken steps to reduce the number of people exposed to radioactive materials. Additionally, there was some blind luck associated with reducing the number of poisoned individuals. A great deal of nuclear testing occurred in Nevada, which had a low atmospheric dispersal rate, meaning the fallout was less likely to make its way to nearby communities. The government was actually looking at other testing facilities before it decided on Nevada, and it turns out that decision could have saved hundreds upon thousands of lives. Unfortunately, the impact of these tests lingers in American society. It's entirely plausible that millions of Americans were exposed to fallout and suffer from illnesses related to that exposure. Those people now rely on the government to fund healthcare. Nuclear testing has fallen to the wayside, with the last test occurring in 1992. This was due to the adoption of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty that was created by the United Nations General Assembly. This treaty bans all nuclear explosions for both military and civilian purposes. The treaty has not entered into force, with 8 nations not yet ratifying. Nuclear weapons have a complicated spot in.
Yeah. He's still talking up to the last second. There is no outro, okay. So, yeah. Damn, fallout is the usual thing that kills, whether it's a nuclear bomb or anything else. When species-killing asteroid hits, it's not the asteroid impact that kills anyone, right? Because it's just one region. It's not going to kill everyone on the planet. No, the fallout of that, all the debris and things that clouds the entire planet, stops the sunlight reaching the surface, basically kills the food chain and kills everyone on the planet, basically. And similar thing is with the nuclear thing, right? Nuclear bombs. Immediate area, obviously everything would vaporize, but the nuclear fallout is the real killer, which stretches out way far distances. Damn, seriously, man. This is just after Castle Bravo basically killed the people who were involved in the bomb testing, because they obviously put the safety area where they think is going to be safe enough, because they thought it's going to be 5 megatons of yield. But obviously, because of tritium, it was 15 megaton of yield. And that just amped up the whole exposure area. So holy shit, 30 miles away, they thought that, blowtorch is hitting their skin or something. That's how hot it was. 30 miles away. Nuclear bombs are, humanity's one of the most powerful thing that they created, and it's gonna stay like that for a long time. Because people realize, imagine at this stage we are creating nuclear weapons. Imagine when we become really advanced, like those movies or whatever they show us, like Cardassiv scale, stage 2, stage 3, civilization, whatever. How powerful would we be? Yeah, but there is not many things in the entire universe more powerful than nuclear fusion. That's how the star works. So if we are primitive in the whole Cardassiv scale, if we are primitive right now compared to how advanced we can be, right, with the Dyson sphere and everything, but our weapon is not primitive. It's like we are apes, then apes created, I guess, machine gun. So it's like that. If we are primitive, our bombs are not primitive. These are nuclear fusion bomb. Yes, it's not a controlled nuclear fusion, which we can't do. It's uncontrolled one. But for the bomb, you don't need controlled one. So we have created a really powerful thing here. Alright, well, that was the nuclear test that went horribly wrong by the channel Underworld. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe so I know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the reaction I did. There's a link in the description. Check out the cast little playlist like, Kazakh with all the scientific videos, real life lore with videos like this. And other playlists too, like history, CGP, things like that. And yeah, I'll see you next time.